They see those 14 lights. They're looking at a miracle. And deep down, they feel that whatever's going to happen, there'll be someone there to help them. And that fills them with hope. See, what you have to ask yourself is, what kind of person are you? Are you the kind that sees signs, sees miracles? Or do you believe that people just get lucky? Or look at the question this way. Is it possible that there are no coincidences?
All right, hey, welcome, Hoss. So a little context here. I had been talking to people about movies that they liked, and I was basically going around to people who are cool and saying, what is a movie you like to, what is a movie you have something to say about, like that you could talk about if someone asked you? And I got a lot of responses that were sort of like the typical like online dude in their 30s movies, which are all good. I love them all. Things like Blade Runner or Blade Runner 2049, or Drive, all the like all the Ryan Gosling action movies and stuff like that. But then you said Signs, and at first I was like, Signs? Who has something to say about Signs? Like, that was sort of in my mind. I mean, I liked it, but in my mind, I was like, that's sort of like a throwaway 90s movie. Not a throwaway. I mean, it was a good movie. It was a hit and stuff, but that was kind of my initial reaction. But then I go back and watch it and also like read a little more about it and go and look at some like reviews or like people on YouTube and stuff analyzing it or whatever. And I think it's like having rewatched it again. There's definitely a lot more there than I initially gave it credit for. And then there's also a lot of other people who I think recognize that as well. So that's with that, I wanted to jump in. What's your history with this movie before you get into like your some of your big observations?
Yeah. I feel like I got to respond to a few things. Number one, yes, this is Hoss, but I am only one of the Hosses. The Hoss is actually a title.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of people that have used that
it's like the Dread Pirate Roberts, same thing as in the Silk Road. It wasn't always Ross Ulbricht. Yeah. There's several people using the account. I'm just one of them. But yes, and also I am a very cool guy, so that's correct.
Yeah.
So Signs. Well, first of all, what I have to say is with the Shyamalan, I don't know how to say his name, universe, there's been some ebbs and flows in the fandom for him and the respect for him as a filmmaker, right? So obviously, let me pull up the filmography while I'm talking about it. But basically, he came out strong. I want to say that the first movie was Brad Pitt was dead the whole time. What's the name of that one? Sixth Sense, right? That was his first one.
Movie?
Other than if you count movie with Freddie Prinze Jr. and that one girl, because he supposedly ghost wrote it. But
what, like, which one was that?
One of those 90s comedy. Like, yeah, She's All That. He supposedly ghost wrote.
Really?
Or like was one of the contributors to.
I'd never heard that. That's pretty hilarious.
Yeah. So but yeah, The Sixth Sense was kind of his big debut on the scene. He also wrote Stuart Little, I'm looking at right now. So Sixth Sense was like, probably like the first meme movie, and it kind of invented internet movie spoilers as well.
Yeah,
right?
I remember real quick. So yeah, that would have been like right at the end of because I'm looking at this list as well. That was 99.
Yeah.
And that's like it was the end of Clinton. the Clinton era. And I remember that was like that. You're right. It was a meme movie. It was like this. I would always see these like these things would be like a picture of Bill and Hillary or like George W. Bush, and it'd be like, I see dumb people. That was like, I saw that probably 1,000
Very
times.
epic meme.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Sixth Sense was a big cultural touchstone. And then he follows it up with Unbreakable, which was not as big, but also widely regarded as like a good one. Right.
Yeah.
And then he came out with Signs. It was still regarded as a good one. So this is 2002. I was 13 or 14 when it came out. So, and I was big into movies by that time. I was a movie guy. I've been a movie guy my entire life, basically. But, you know, and I didn't really love Sixth Sense, but I really liked Unbreakable. So I'm kind of hipster like that, right? And then, so I was excited to see Signs. And basically, I actually ended up seeing it. We had moved from Utah to Florida, and I went back to Utah to visit. And I was with all my idiot friends from Utah, and we all went to see the movie and then hung out at the Walmart afterwards. So it's got a nostalgia factor for sure. But anyway, Signs came out, and I would say it was somewhat mixed reviews compared to the others. People were still like, oh, it's the twist guy, you know, and this one didn't really have as much of a twist as the previous two, right?
Yeah.
It still like kind of has a twist, I guess, but it's not really a twist. It's kind of just like a thing that happens. And then subsequently he had The Village, then Lady in the Water, and and then Airbender, which kind of ruined it and Happening, I guess. But I could also defend some of those other films though. But anyway,
I think The Village was all right. I was young.
Yeah, Village once again was mixed.
I was young enough when I saw it that I didn't get the reveal at the end. If I saw that movie for the first time today, I'd probably have it figured out in the first 10 minutes. But
well, and with that twist, there's actually, I had read like a young adult novel, or not a young adult, you know, like a kid's novel, where the plot was there was this girl in a 18th century village, and then she ended up escaping out and finding out it was the modern day, and she was like part of some kind of like tourist exhibit. And so like when I was watching it, I'm like, I wonder if it's like that movie, that book, and then it was the same plot. So I wonder if he ripped it off. But anyway, back to Signs. So yeah, anyway, Signs comes out, but there was a big backlash, especially I would say subsequently on the internet, and after kind of he lost favor with the general public with Lady in the Water through Airbender, right?
Mm-hmm.
And basically and this, once again, it being kind of an early internet spoiler meme movie, which kind of, you know, has created the whole spoiler alert culture that we have.
Yeah.
With like Marvel movies, and you can't know what happened at the end of Spider-Man or whatever.
And this isn't like a fresh. I think a lot of people have this view, but I can't even make myself care about spoilers. There's like a few exceptions. Like there's some movies that do rely on like you not knowing too much, but for the most part, I actively seek them out. I just don't care. Like if it's a good movie is going to be good, even if you know all the like plot points.
Right. Like you can't spoil the Bible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, really, really good works will stand up regardless of spoilers or not. But anyway, I would say even like shortly after the movie, but definitely like when like cinema sins became a thing, you know, and like people critiquing like every little shot in a movie for continuity and stuff like that, and then like trying to find like internal consistency and like being like lasers actually wouldn't make sound in space or whatever it is, you know. As if like that's what makes a good movie, like scientific accuracy.
Yeah.
But the big criticism was obviously the aliens that show up don't like water, and
Yeah.
they water kills them or whatever. Okay, and then everybody's take was, well, if the Earth is 70% water, why would the aliens choose to come here? And I would hear those criticisms, and I was like, did you guys watch the movie? and so like that's like the biggest criticism, and that's what everybody says whenever you bring up Signs. So like if I say, hey, I like Signs, someone's like, why would the aliens come to a place with water? What if it rains? And anyway, I don't know, what do you think about that?
It doesn't like I remember having that critique as like a kid, and of course the movie, especially now that I've viewed it again, like a month ago when we first talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's so far down the list of priorities of like what's going on in the movie, because it's obviously about it's about bigger things like faith and family, but it doesn't bother me too much, because I mean that always happens in every alien movie. It's like, if they can get here, that means they're smarter than us. That means they should already know everything about our planet. That means, all that stuff. It's right. So you could say maybe they just didn't know that about our planet, or maybe they thought that's a risk they could live with, or because we are human explorers in the real world go into dangerous environments that they know are dangerous. All that said, they don't have protective gear or whatever, but yeah, it's never. That whole thing never bothered me.
So yeah. So and kind of what I was wondering is just your perception of like the discourse around Signs, I guess, whatever you know, because I mean I've paid attention to it because it's been one of my favorite movies since it came out, but like maybe not everyone pays attention, but like I found it
annoying. I find it annoying when and maybe it's just like a need to be like against the grain or something, but I find it annoying when too many people coalesce around the same critique.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, and sometimes that critique's probably a good one, but in the case of like water and Signs, I don't think it's a good one.
Right. So also, spoiler alert for Signs, everyone. For a movie that came out 20 years ago.
Yeah, 2002's Signs. Oh wait, yeah, it's now 20 years old.
Yeah. I was like, oh, we are in 2022. Dang. But yeah, so and I guess like as part of the Signs discussion before we like dive into the movie itself, like and maybe I could do like a rundown of the plot, I don't know. But I feel like Signs is at the intersection of kind of like the meme Shyamalan movie with a twist. So like twist endings being a thing. And then with that, the spoiler alert culture. And then especially I would say the what I would call the plot hole culture around movie discussion. So a movie comes out and then some anime head or some furry will make like a 6-hour response to a 2-hour movie on YouTube talking about every little minute detail that takes place, as if that's a critique of the movie and not just like, I don't know, like talking about the things that happened. I don't know. But although sometimes I watch those 6-hour videos and they're very interesting what they come up with. But
yeah, I watched a few of those.
I feel like
for this, but I do watch those on occasion.
Signs was kind of the tip of the spear of some of these things. And then also like subsequently other movies are not as good as Signs that get the same treatment, but it still bugs me. Like, I don't know if I'm going to defend, the Star Wars sequels as much or whatever, but sometimes I'm like your understanding of what Luke Skywalker would do in certain situations is kind of irrelevant to the storytelling, or whatever. But yeah, so I guess like as we're thinking about it, like that's kind of my big thought regarding Signs is like, what does it have to do in this like kind of internet age of movie critiques? And I'm glad you found critiques that were positive of it. I guess that's the only reason someone would go back 20 years. But I don't know if the Chris Stuckman did one, and his I basically totally agree with.
I watched his a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so he also has it as one of his favorite movies. He's around my same age, I think, and so he got it, and I was like, thank you. Although I do have different takes than he does, but yeah, when I saw that one, I'm like, okay, I can watch this guy's reviews and maybe I'll agree with him on some stuff. Although it's kind of cringe, I guess.
Real quick on that, I'm looking at the Rotten Tomatoes, which is it is what it is, but the critic score is 74, which I guess that sounds about right.
It was well received. Like it wasn't a flop for Shyamalan.
Well, the critic score is 74, and if you were to ask me, I play this game with people all the time, like where I just like I guess the Rotten Tomatoes score, or I'll guess like the critic score versus the audience score. You're not looking at it, right? You haven't seen it, right?
Seen the Rotten Tomatoes? No.
Yeah. Okay. So I told you the 74 critic score. What would you say the audience score is?
Well, I'm taking into account how Rotten Tomatoes works.
Yeah.
Like, I would guess it would be somewhat high, just because like, why would people go and rate the movie unless they kind of liked it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, why would someone think? So I would guess higher than 60, but maybe it's not.
It's higher than 60.
Okay. Is it
I
like
think the main thing I'm looking for here is like, what's the plus or minus on the critic score?
I would guess it might be slightly higher than the critic score.
That would have been my guess too, but it's lower. It's 67%.
Okay.
But
that makes sense, I think.
Not quite to me, because what I think happened here is I bet if that score was only audience score of people who saw that movie within 10 years of coming out, it would be 80 or higher.
Yes, 100%. Because everyone I knew liked it. Yeah.
Yes, same. But this 67, I think, is people in the last 10 years coming along and
being like, aliens in water, wrong planet, alien idiot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely what's happened. But also, I had the Wikipedia up, so while we're talking about stats of the movie,
how much money did it make?
It only cost $72 million to make, which seems maybe even a little high, but I guess
probably
they got Mel Gibson.
25 of that's for Mel, yeah.
Yeah. So, but it made 408 total.
That's a good.
That's international, so 227 domestic, which back then that's pulling some numbers. So that's
the international market was bad back then. It was like, UK and Japan and Europe, and then like no one else was getting, not a lot.
Right, there were no billion-dollar movies other than Titanic at that point. Would this movie do as well if it came out today? No, but Mel Gibson, bring Mel Gibson in.
Yeah, part of the reason. I wonder. I'm thinking on that. Would it do as well? Oh, it wouldn't make 400. It wouldn't make 400 million, because almost nothing does that didn't also cost 350 million to make.
Right.
Or 200 million or something.
Right. That's a big success, actually. Like 72 million making 400 million. That's a big return. And
I could be wrong, but if you went back and looked at the numbers, that's a really good return. But it was somewhat not that uncommon probably back then to like quadruple your money, especially and to do it on a movie that's like cost less than 100 million. It seems like things now only make like 50 million or 700 million. Yeah. Maybe I'm totally wrong. That's just what it seems like. Yeah. Well, with COVID, it's kind of weird, but yeah. Yeah. But it was in big decline before that anyway, except for like Marvel. Mm-hmm. So, also there's another thing about Signs, I think, which is expectations set by the advertising. Mm-hmm. Meaning it was advertised as an alien invasion movie. Yeah. And so if you go in expecting an alien invasion, you kind of get that,
but it's not really what the movie's about. And so
Yeah, you only
that's
see
the
like
other
four or five alien, or it might even be fewer, but you only
an
see a
entire
couple.
alien body you see once, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess, and on top of the farmhouse. But yeah, let me do the intro to the movie for those who haven't seen it or just need a refresher. We've got Mel Gibson and we've got young Joaquin Phoenix, kind of before he was Joaquin Phoenix. You know, he wasn't really a big name at this point. Not a small name, but you know, he hadn't done Walk the Line or Gone Crazy yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, good cast though, and it's mainly those two, and then the kids. So we've got a Culkin brother, and then young Abigail Breslin, right?
Yeah.
So and then that is that it? Yeah, that's it. Some dogs, and then Shyamalan self-insert. But here's for the intro to the movie. The general plot would essentially be a former priest who you're not totally sure why he's not a priest anymore at the very beginning of the movie is walks out into his yard and sees his cornfield has been bent in a suspect manner to have some kind of crop circle in it. And he's very skeptical of everything, but basically, you know, is upset by it and trying to figure out what's going on. And then it turns out it's aliens. And the family kind of has to deal with it. That's the plot of the movie, right? Is that the plot?
Yeah. Yeah.
Brief plot.
Yeah, that's the simplest version of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But a big part of this movie is given away in the first shot, which is it shows an empty wall with the outline of a cross with like dust or whatever or marks along where the cross used to be, and it's not on the wall. And you see that Mel Gibson used to be Christian and is now not. So like that is the first shot of the movie, if I'm not mistaken. and it's kind of the entire point of the movie, which is this priest who has lost his faith due to his wife being killed in kind of a senseless accident, decides that he has no faith in anything, but then is confronted with this extraterrestrial thing and is forced to kind of believe things again, and then in the end ends up finding faith again. But the other thing I would say about this movie is the alien invasion is not the plot of the movie. The alien invasion is the setting. The setting is alien invasion movie. The plot is the faith crisis of the priest and his family.
Yeah.
So that's my like kind of thesis statement of the movie.
A few things I'll touch on there. I think you're right about that being the first shot. Although before that, and this is just more a comment on craft, I guess. But before that, there's like this very loud introduction. It's like these weird horns. It's like this weird loud song while they put the names up on screen. I found it very strange, like because it is a somewhat quiet movie. But they open it up like it's, I don't know. You'll have to go back and watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, maybe I just need to watch the credits.
It's very weird. The first like 90 seconds are very off-putting. I was like, I do not remember this very weird intro that's very loud. And it's like I feel like it's like horns, like trumpets or something. Anyway, but then it comes to that scene, and then yeah, you mentioned the kids, and the funny thing is, before I had kids that were kind of like that age, I would have thought those were very annoying kid characters. I would have thought they were too precocious, because I don't like precocious kids in movies. But then you have kids and you're like, oh, well, how old is the Culkin kid supposed to be? He's supposed to be like 8
Probably
or
like
10 or something, right?
yeah, the oldest probably 11 at the oldest.
Yeah, and so like
yeah.
by that age, kids are actually totally like that. Like there's a lot of kids who
Mhm.
are like I was now that I think back to myself and I'm thinking about my own kids, like my own kids are having weird like insights and or like they're tying together pieces of pop culture that they've just picked up and stuff, and even they're even like making jokes and stuff that I would think were too smart for a kid, but I think we underestimate sometimes.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean,
Well, and I mean, if we were to critique, I'm sure the kid is used as a plot device to kind of give exposition about crop circles and alien invasions, right?
yeah, but I know for myself, by the time I was like 9, I was definitely going to the library and getting alien books and like
Right. Or
learning
medieval
stuff.
war books or
Yeah,
something like that.
for me it was alien books, but
Oh, really?
yeah, like but yeah, I mean, definitely a 9 and 10-year-old is into that and has these ideas and is looking for these sort of signs. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Also, the movie is called Signs. The first shot is a cross, and then it has crop circles. There,
yeah,
it's a.
and I mean, it's sort of the thing there, which it's like the whole movie is he's looking. I mean, there's a double meaning to the name Signs. It's
And that's the genius of the movie, really.
yeah,
Like, and that it's kind of an interesting thing that really isn't done too often, where like the setting is kind of the most exciting thing, but then like the story is actually the more compelling thing and is somewhat tangential to the setting, right? Like
yeah,
I'm trying to think of another movie where like the setting is totally like incongruent with the plot, kind of like you don't just randomly set a movie in the future if it's not about being in the future, you know.
yeah. The on this idea of like the double meaning of signs, like are there what are other there probably are some good examples, but nothing's coming to mind of like other movies that are intended to be blockbusters that have A-listers. Gibson was an A-lister. I mean, he's still an A-lister, I guess, but he was definitely an A-lister at the time. Joaquin is, at the time is like a B-lister or whatever, but movies like that are so overtly like Christian, I guess. Like it's
Oh yeah.
like who else is like what else is like that in the last 20 years since that came out?
Well, speaking of movies, the Don't Look Up has some overtly Christian messages in it, though I don't know if they're intentional, so it's hard to say. But
I would plan to not watch that. Did you see it?
I watched it last night, so it's on the top of my mind right now. But yeah, so no, but it's definitely not a Christian movie by any means. But like, no, definitely like, and I don't even think Signs was recognized as that, as being like an overtly Christian movie. I think if it came out today, that would be a big criticism, and they'd be like Mel Gibson pushing Christianity on us. But yeah, maybe Passion of the Christ, and then other than that, God's Not Dead 1 and 2.
Yeah, I mean those
movies with Kevin Sorbo.
They're made by like Christian studios with Christian money, but otherwise, like, because the movie is saying like this guy used to be he's not Catholic, but he's this guy
Episcopal.
he used to have Christian faith. He lost it, and by the end of the movie, he gets it back, and that's in the morality and context of the movie, that's a good thing.
Right, but once again, it kind of slipped under the radar because of the alien invasion aspect of it, right? So which honestly, I think was intentional. Although I have no clue what Shyamalan's religious beliefs are, nor do I care to look them up necessarily. I'm kind of a believer in.
And I didn't find a good answer, but
I'm kind of a believer in death of the author, so it doesn't really matter what he thinks. It kind of stands on its own. But I guess, yeah, I'm assuming he's at least somewhat Christian because a lot of his movies deal with Christianity and those types of themes. Whether it's about the devil or whatever it is, or a beach that makes you old. I haven't seen that one yet.
I've been looking at the list. I really haven't seen a lot of them actually. I guess when he started falling out of favor, I just kind of stopped seeing the movies just because they were not just like put in front of me.
Uh-huh.
So I just wasn't seeing them.
So for directors, let me see which ones I've seen. I have seen The Visit. I saw that one. Yeah, that was a weird one. Split, I saw. Glass, I saw. I didn't see Old. So I'm just behind on Old and whatever TV shows he's done.
Hmm.
Yeah, anyway, I give him some credit just because I do enjoy some of his movies. Although I did not like Glass. Anyway. Yeah, so definitely the overtly Christian themes, though, are a really cool aspect of the movie, especially now, because like that's actually one of my favorite like genres is like religious movies that aren't necessarily like a Kevin Sorbo flick, but like Dune is a religious movie. Yeah, that's the other thing is there's definitely not any overtly religious movies, and then there's also not really a lot of sci-fi movies that aren't like sci-fi for the sake of sci-fi, I guess. And I'm a big fan of sci-fi, and as a setting I think it's a cool setting. And I guess there's always I guess Blade Runner is not really about the blade running, but to a certain extent it is, but it's questions of humanity or whatever.
I mean, every movie uses, or not every movie, most good movies they do use the setting and like the aesthetics of some like genre or something to explore something that's more fundamentally human. But that's I guess somewhat common in like better movies.
Right. But even still, like the sci-fi is still a big part of it in that like you couldn't really do Blade Runner in a different setting. I mean, maybe you could.
Yeah, and in Signs we end up learning very little about the aliens other than
right. They're almost like tangential to the plot. They're they're hardly even seen or spoke of.
Yeah, they're humanoid and they are.
Well, and it's not even really directly said that they're aliens. It's not like, hey, Dad, here comes the aliens. You better board it up, right?
Yeah. Did they remind me? Do they see spacecrafts or do they just?
The only thing they see is lights in the sky in Mexico. They never actually see any technology from the aliens, which brings me to my other big take on this movie, which is the aliens are not aliens.
Demons.
The aliens are obviously demons. It's a movie about Christianity.
Yeah.
And there's no spacecraft. They don't really act the way you would think an alien would act. They get that you can lock them in a closet, which is even brought up in the movie for like plot hole nerds. They're like, oh, he can lock him in a closet. What an idiot alien. But it's like, that's even said in the movie. Like they seem to have trouble with closet doors. And then, but yeah, and they kind of move in the darkness. The dogs can kind of sense them. Yeah. Anyway, these aliens have no spacecraft, have no laser fights. They're obviously demons. But it works either way.
Yeah.
I would like to know if Shyamalan has that in his mind at all. That would be interesting to find out.
Yeah. And then I like the water is, then if they're demons, then the water is, like holy water. And...
Right. Then the biggest plot hole of Signs is no longer a plot hole and is actually a really cool thing.
Yeah. I guess I'm wondering why a demon would make a crop circle.
Demons are always making
they just do stuff. Yeah.
Signals and things, they're branding people and stigmata and stuff. Who knows?
Yeah. And I guess I was watching one video, like a making of Signs, like I didn't watch much of it, but they mentioned how the crop circles were real, which seems easy enough to make because like, farmers can make corn mazes or whatever. But they made a big deal of it, I guess, because they were trying to get Shyamalan to just do it as CGI. But he's like, no, these got to be real crop circles. We got to really get some guys in here with boards to push down these crops. I don't know why that was important to him, but apparently, they didn't want to, and he wanted to.
Well, it's good. That's the other thing is for a movie with aliens in it, it does hold up other than probably the final alien at the end who's holding the boy and you get kind of a full on view of him. Although I watched it recently and it's not too bad. Like you can tell it's not real, but it's actually not as bad as I would have thought it would have been.
Yeah, they keep it dimly lit and everything.
Well, and they do the trick of showing him in the reflection of the TV, which makes it a little easier to pull off the CGI aspect.
A second ago, you mentioned the dogs, which when I noticed,
that's another thing about this movie I want to talk about. Yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe it's the same thing I was thinking of, but do dogs still die in movies? I'm not sure. I've seen
just that. John Wick is the most recent one.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's kind of a big rule of movies. You don't kill dogs, but he kills both of them, man.
Yeah. They killed 2 dogs in a PG-13.
One of them, like the kid kills. So like, yeah, Shyamalan don't care. Kill all your dogs.
The worst movie for dogs in a while.
Also, probably my most controversial opinion would be that I don't care about other people's pets. So I actually have a lot of respect for a man who kills a dog in a movie because I know it outrages so many people and I think they deserve it. We may have to edit this out.
No, this is the best part. Dog, you liked it because of the dog killing.
Yes, I like killing a dog because why not? It's just a dog. Who cares?
Oh yeah, I'm glad. I mean, no, I am though glad they went there because movies now are so precious about dogs for some. I mean, we know why, but
yeah,
people have more humanity toward dogs than people. But
yeah, so like I used to sell glasses and you work off commission. So I had this old lady who was buying like 3 or 4 pairs of glasses at once. And I was like, okay, whatever. But she talked to me about her dogs and like their daycare situation for like an hour. And I'm just sitting there listening to this lady go on about her dogs. I mean, I don't especially hate dogs. I like dogs, but like, I don't really care about other people's pets because they're not mine and I'm not interested in them or what they've done. They're not human. And so she's telling me all about the accomplishments of her precious dogs. And then when she finally leaves, I look at my coworkers sitting around in the room and I'm like, can you believe she went on about her dogs for so long? All my coworkers were females in their 40s or 50s. And they were like, they all got mad at me for making that comment. And then I was like, oh, that was like one of the times I realized like how touchy of a subject it is.
Let's see. I got a few notes here. Let me run down.
I've definitely got other takes of different aspects. I was thinking we should talk about the different scare points and the scary factor of it.
Okay, I'm gonna go straight to the main one, which I think is the signature shot of the movie.
The Brazil one.
Yeah, the TV when they're watching the TV and. Or is it just the brother watching it? Whatever.
The brother's watching the TV. I don't know if the other people like come up at some point, but yeah, the brother's watching.
Yeah, that's the best. That's sort of the best image and moment of the movie in terms of just the imagery and everything. That one stuck with me as a kid. Like that one was very, very like perfectly executed, genuinely scary moment. And it's not even really, it's not done as a jump scare. They use a little bit of music, I think, to
emphasize.
But it's like perfectly done. And it still was like when on my rewatch recently, it was still quality.
I have a hipster take on the best scare, but that one is good and definitely stood out. And the other thing with Signs and Me is I am not a scary movie person. I don't really like scary movies. They're too scary. But it's one of those scary movies that I have to watch every once in a while. It's a movie I get like a craving for. I don't know if you've ever had a craving for a movie.
Oh yeah, there's lots of things I watch. I'll watch every couple of years, or when I turn movies on in the background when I'm working and stuff.
Yeah, and so this one is kind of hard for me because it's so scary. It's like when you want to eat spicy food and you know it's going to be like super spicy.
So what are the other scare moments that are
So
like?
my worst one is when these Mel Gibson is laying down at night, and then looks out the window and there's a flash of lightning and you just see the alien standing on top of the roof. Oh man, that gets me every time.
Yeah. Yeah, the basement too was
Basement's good.
basement's
So
pretty
yeah,
good.
there's essentially like the that I think the flash of lightning is kind of the first one, if I'm not mistaken. And then the next one, and which is also very scary, is he goes into the cornfield because he's thinking it's just some random kids in the neighborhood or whatever. And he turns around and then you just see the like calf and foot of an alien like go into the corn.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
I don't know if you'd call this like it's like the Hitchcock approach or something, but
uh-huh.
he goes to great lengths to only reveal the monster at the end.
For sure. Yeah. Cause you don't really get a good look at him until the Brazil video, and then it kind of pauses the video and you see the alien kind of for the first time, and it's like a green alien guy.
Oh, and then back to the Brazil TV thing. It's kind of this was probably on purpose, but I think one reason it's so I'll say affecting is because it's like a one-to-one replication of that famous Bigfoot image. It's like the exact same image. Like it's like they're pretty much just recreating it just with a alien and not Bigfoot. But so there's already that like I don't know. I think to me it like gives it some like gravity or something where it makes it feel like it's this part of this this bigger lore of like spooky things and aliens and monsters and all that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that's basically it until the end of the movie. Oh, I guess you see the guy in the closet at
Yeah,
M. Night Shyamalan's character's house.
I was just looking at my notes. I remember the cop lady. There's one of the funniest parts of the movie is when she's explaining to Mel Gibson about crop circles
Mm-hmm.
and like how people make them and stuff. And it's like this guy lives on property with crops. He probably knows what these are. He's probably heard of them or been to a corn maze where someone flattened some crops.
Yeah, that's dialogue for the audience, I guess. I think Shyamalan does that a lot too. Like I'm thinking back to like Unbreakable. He'll be like, there's the I guess the villain. Spoilers for Unbreakable. The villain is always like the hero has to do this and then the hero does that, and he's like explaining the plot of the movie to the main character.
Yeah,
But that's a Shyamalan thing. I still enjoy it. He makes good movies.
that's I mean the art of like doing a movie that a lot of people can enjoy, but is still saying something is an art, and there's like very little of it now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, speaking of other characters in the movie, is the kids, like you said, you find them believable, but also they're good actors.
Oh yeah,
Like you're never once feeling like the kid is reading a line.
yeah.
And that's kind of especially impressive with, I don't know how old Abigail Breslin was, but she was pretty young and she like sold it pretty well.
Yeah, and then I mean, I haven't seen her in anything like lately, but she then went on to be like the kid in every movie. And of course, the other one is a Culkin, who I looked him up. He's not done a ton, but he's going to be in a new Under the Banner of Heaven TV series.
Okay.
So that'll be interesting.
So she was 6 years old, maybe 5 years old when it was filmed.
Yeah. pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she seems like a 5-year-old kid. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and she even seems younger than a lot of 5-year-olds I know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, 96. So she could have been 4 or 5, I guess, depending on where it was filmed.
Shyamalan does, he makes it kind of like a little puzzle where every person in the family
Yes.
has to do their role, has to do their part to.
And also, every member of the family has lost faith in some way.
Yeah. Like there's the scene where they want to use that baby monitor, and it's maybe a little forced, but whatever. The whole family has to be like touching hands, like the way a lot of like Christian families do, like their say grace or whatever. But so they all have to be like touching hands and reaching out to get like the max radio reception or whatever. But then like I say, it's a puzzle. Every person, the one kid has to have asthma. The girl has to have her water fixation.
Mm-hmm.
Mel has to be, or not Mel, but Joaquin has to be a baseball guy, and
failed baseball guy. So and Mel Gibson is the priest. So yeah, Mel Gibson has lost faith in himself or his faith in God, and then the brother has lost faith in himself because he failed the baseball career, and then the son has lost faith in his dad because he feels like he's no longer like a good dad because he's lost faith and he's lame-o and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so Shyamalan essentially is setting up all the pieces to come together kind of in the culminating scene. And I think it's fairly effective.
Yeah, it's compelling. It's especially for like I say, it's like a group movie, a movie you can watch with a range of ages and stuff, and they're all going to enjoy it.
Yeah. It works as a suspense film for me, and it works as a Christian film, and it works as an alien invasion film.
Yeah, and then something else I want to touch on is how Shyamalan gives himself actually a good role. Sometimes directors plop themselves into movies and it's like a mistake or it doesn't seem natural. But he gives himself a pretty good role, and I think he plays it well. He's mostly like kind of like sedate, and I don't know if he's always. He kind of appears in all of his movies, doesn't he?
At least at the beginning, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is.
He was a date rapist in Unbreakable.
Okay, never mind. That's the best role he's given himself.
Yeah.
Well, I guess in this one he's a manslaughterer. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so that's the other interesting thing about the movie is you don't actually know what happened to Mel Gibson, other than you kind of learn early on that the wife is dead because she's not there, and then the cop brings it up, I think, and then everyone keeps calling him father, and he's like, "Don't call me father." So like you get the context, but then you don't actually see what happened until you get to the very end scene where the alien is there. That's when they actually play out the final moments where he walks up on the crash where his wife was killed.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of interesting storytelling and stuff like that, where you don't get the full context of it, but it's kind of shown as like a flashback in the climax of the movie. But it's not super jarring either. But yeah, so yeah, you find out that the wife was killed by the Shyamalan character who supposedly fell asleep, even though he says several times like he has no idea why he fell asleep and why right there, had it been like, 10 seconds earlier, 10 seconds later, it wouldn't have happened. But he just perfectly fell asleep right where she was running along the side of the road, and then ended up pinning her against a tree, so she was still alive. But he went and then Mel Gibson was able to go and talk to her before she died, and she was just saying a bunch of random stuff, is what Mel Gibson said to Joaquin Phoenix's character.
Yeah.
And then and like in the middle of the movie, there's kind of this big conversation when the kids are asleep, and he's talking to his brother and basically telling him like why he doesn't believe in God anymore. And he's like, there's two types of people who see signs and people who are Reddit science people.
Yeah. That was what happened to him. He got the internet, and
he joined Reddit.
Yeah, he started going online and reading.
Well, and like his wife died of like the most like useless death. Like there was like no reason for it whatsoever, and like no one you could really blame almost, you know.
Yeah, I think in the timeline of the movie, he only loses his faith for 6 months.
Is that all it is?
I think so. I think at one point they say like, I can't remember what it was. There was something that indicated. I walked away thinking it was only 6 months, start to finish.
Yeah.
Or
yeah, it's not super
the,
long.
Yeah.
Because the people in the town still are calling him father and all that type of stuff. But yeah, so what is it? Maybe we should look up what she actually says. But she says, like tell each of the kids something, and then tell
Meryl.
Is he Meryl? Meryl's Joaquin Phoenix, but what's his name again? Graham. She says tell Graham to see, and then tell Meryl to swing away. And so he basically, like, that was one of the main reasons he lost his faith, is because he was like, you know, she wasn't like, her spirit wasn't there or anything. It was just like random misfirings of her brain causing her to say random things from her past, you know.
Yeah.
And but yeah, and so like, yeah, all the stuff gets set up where the kid has asthma, which is shown kind of throughout the movie. And then the daughter is drinking water but has to get a fresh glass every time and keeps setting them all around the house. And then Meryl has his like special home run bat up on the wall. And yeah, so then in the moment at the very end, when the alien grabs the son, when they think everything's over, but then the alien, you know, supposedly stayed behind because he was mad he got his fingers cut off, is holding him. That's when he realizes that all the signs were there, and actually like the wife's, I guess, final words were almost like a vision or a premonition to help him at this point right then. And so smashes all the stuff, smashes the water, kills the alien. Good stuff.
Yeah. Do the aliens or the demons, do they successfully kill or like abscond with anyone on Earth? Or like
they kill a bunch of people, supposedly. Okay. Like on the news it says like they found a primitive way of fighting them off or something like that. So supposedly they were like killing people right and left.
Oh, okay.
You don't actually see it though in the movie. No one actually gets killed other than the dogs.
Yeah.
But basically, the movie is to say that God is real. And he puts signs in your life to show you that. And like, you need, and like, according to Mel Gibson's speech, you need to be a person that sees signs. Like that's like the message of the movie. So like when someone's like, "Who, a dumb alien movie with dumb aliens?" Like, I'm like, you didn't even pay attention to the movie.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I think I exhausted my notes, but this is the movie takes place in Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
Uh-huh. He's from like Pittsburgh or something.
Yeah, Bucks County is just outside. It's pretty close to Philadelphia, but
Yeah, maybe he's from Philly because that's where Unbreakable's set.
yeah, but there is something demonic in Bucks County.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a theme park, and the theme is Sesame Street. But it's not. It's funny because they licensed Sesame Street, and I'm not like a big Sesame Street respecter, but I think the show Sesame Street is it strikes the right tone, or at least historically it did. It was pretty good. But this theme park, like, does not have the spirit of Sesame Street at all. It just has the characters. And so it's like this very it's like not a good place. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but they just like they got, it's kind of like Times Square Elmo, where it's like this is Elmo, but he's like
he smokes.
Yeah, he's sad. And everyone here has a lot of tattoos on their calves. It's just kind of a weird place.
That's funny.
But yeah, that's pretty close to where that movie was filmed. And
so definitely some demonic energy going on there.
For sure. Yeah, that's like an epicenter of some bad things.
Yeah. So I guess like why I would pick Signs as like one of my favorite ones to talk about is mainly because I think people need to give it a second chance if they've written it off due to water plot holes. And then also, yeah, go ahead.
It's a I mean, I knew about, I mean, I remembered that it had kind of like that double meaning already. But watching it again as an adult is a good idea. Because it's a little more poignant if you've got kids and if you're in that stage of life and just able to process the movie on that level.
Oh, and the scene where they make all their favorite foods and then nobody wants to eat them.
Yeah, that's probably my least favorite scene.
Yeah,
he yells at everyone.
But I mean, it's a good scene in that.
Oh yeah,
it's supposed to be a not favorite scene. Yeah,
I just hate it's. I don't like to see him yelling at everyone, at the little kids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then they do this all the time in movies. No one ever eats in a movie, but then he starts like slamming food because he's mad at everyone.
Maybe we should do a special episode where we talk about food eating scenes in movies.
Oh yeah,
because that scene always makes me want to like eat that food. I'm like, yeah, we should make like spaghetti and hamburgers and waffles.
Yeah. Oh, that actually kind of annoyed me too, because he's like, because they're in a hurry to like board up their house,
right? But
then they're like, let's do 7 meals, all of which will take at least half an hour to make. Like, I don't know how they, that doesn't seem like very good planning. Someone posted something the other day online, and it was like a scene with some food from a movie, and the guy is like shoving the plate of food around for like 4 minutes while he talks. No one in real life does that. They either stop moving the food around or they eat it.
The other movie that makes me crave things is House Guest. It's a Sinbad movie. You remember that?
I don't remember it.
You don't?
The name sounds familiar, but I did watch a Sinbad movie the other day.
Yeah, he ends up, he's like running from the mob because he owes them money for some reason. And then he ends up finding a family that's holding up a sign for this guy's childhood friend who was black, but he hasn't seen him since he was a kid. So he's like saying, I don't know what he looks like. I haven't seen him.
I remember this.
He overhears it and says, oh, I'm that guy, and then has to pretend to be that guy who's like this famous like oral surgeon, and hijinks ensue. But there's a scene where the guy that was supposed to show up was a vegetarian and had set like a strict diet requirement over, so they were like making all his food for him, and it was all terrible vegetarian food. And so he finally gets away from the family and goes to order McDonald's.
Yeah.
And he orders like a bunch of McDonald's, and then never gets to eat it. But then he finally gets a chance to just eat a Big Mac, and it always makes me want a Big Mac when I watch that movie.
Yeah, that's so weird. I during you describing that, I went from not remembering this movie at all to I definitely know I've seen that.
Yeah, it was, Sinbad, mid-90s, good stuff.
Yeah, I watched Jingle All the Way the
Mm,
other day.
I haven't seen that one in a while.
I wanted to see if my kids would think it was cool or funny or whatever, and they didn't really. I mean, they were like pretty neutral on it.
Yeah, no bean mouth animation. So I could talk about more how the discourse around Signs almost like ruined the movie for people.
So there was the water,
Like the subsequent like Reddit nerding out on Signs is almost like it like poisoned the well for people. And I think this happens a lot where, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't get into this, but yeah, like the one of them is Star Wars The Last Jedi, the second to last one.
Yeah,
I have nothing good to say about the last one, but the second to last sequel trilogy had kind of a similar thing where it was actually kind of a cool movie, but then the discourse around it kind of immediately like poisoned everyone against it. But it definitely wasn't the worst of the three by
Last
any means.
Jedi. Oh yeah, the Return of Skywalker was the third, right?
Yes, it's confusing because it's called The Last, but it's the second to last.
Yeah, that was the one with the
Ryan Johnson directed it,
and
Ryan Johnson is, by all intents and purposes, a good director.
Yeah, he did Looper, right?
Uh-huh. And he did some interesting things in the Star Wars universe, but people didn't appreciate it because of the whole plot hole, like fan theory side of things. And he was basically like, all your fan theories, well, they suck.
Yeah, wasn't
I'm not going to do it.
I don't know if there's any merit to this, but wasn't he like actively trying to not ruin the series, but just like break it?
No. So what happened was the Force Awakens came out and was generally positively received, though it was mainly just for the action scenes because nothing really happens in the movie. But they had good actors, the action was pretty fast paced, and it kind of looked like it was setting some stuff up for interesting things in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
But really nothing had happened. And so Ryan Johnson is a filmmaker. Now he's a post-structuralist, as all filmmakers would be now. So like, he can't just go and be like, I'm just going to make another one where it's like, there's a new Darth Vader and there's a new Luke and they're going to fight and there's a new Yoda and there's, you know what I mean? We're just going to do Empire Strikes Back again, but again. So what he did with it is he made, like, you have the question, this is another podcast, but he had the question of, well, why was Luke hiding out for 40 years or whatever,
Yeah.
And he gave it a coherent answer, which is he had like given up on Jediing and wanted them to die out, Now, whether or not you like that answer is up to you, I guess, but it is like a fairly interesting answer to that question. And then the other thing was like, there was all the Snoke analysis, and stuff. Who is Snoke? And the thing about Snoke is nobody came up with a good idea for who he was because they were all really dumb because it was a dumb character and it made no sense. And so Ryan Johnson, I think, recognized that and was like, yeah, I'm just going to kill him because he, like, you don't need him. And he was like, obviously the two most interesting characters are Rey and Kylo Ren. Like, those are the interesting characters of the plot, and he put them at the center of it. So everyone who has critiques against that movie doesn't critique that relationship necessarily. But anyway, this goes to say that people hate The Last Jedi, and it's mainly because they saw YouTube videos of anime people telling them to hate it. And it's a similar thing with Signs, where like people would watch, like, you know, oh, look at how dumb Signs is because of this, this, and that, and look at this plot hole. Like I pulled up, there was a website, it was like, what's it called? Moviemistakes.com. And it's like, in one scene, only a single glass pours over the alien, but then when it zooms out in the next shot, you see that there's actually 3 glasses of water that have tipped over. It's like that's not a critique of a movie. I'm sorry. Like, you can't not like a movie because it was maybe 1 or 2 glasses of water.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at this. There's another one where some people have tried to explain the plot hole by saying it's not the water, there's contaminants in the water, and that's what's getting it. And it's like, no, that it's the water. It's definitely the water. And he's like, couldn't somebody sweating hurt the alien? It's like, man, you guys are not like, you don't watch a movie to find a 100% scientific accurate representation of whatever it is you're watching.
Yeah, the Black Science Man approach.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess at least now, like if YouTube is an indicator, anyone who bothers to talk about Signs on YouTube pretty much liked it.
Really? So I've only watched the Stuckman review, so that's good to hear, actually.
There's at least, I found a couple others that had a similar tone to his. Or there's like at least some analysis that's sort of like neutral, but but they see that there was more there than just like cool alien movie.
Now, where there are plot holes in movies is things like in scary movies where the characters don't act like a normal person would act. Meaning when they see something scary, they don't run away. Or, you know, like, oh, this giant monster's coming after me. I guess I better walk towards it.
Yeah.
You know, like that you can critique because like people act certain ways in certain situations to a certain extent. Like, you know, things could be explained like why someone would do X, Y, or Z. But you don't try to explain, like, you're not really in, like, why the water works against the aliens doesn't really matter to the plot of the movie. Whereas like in a scary movie, if the person is like just a retard and, you know, runs towards the aliens, then you don't, like, it's like, oh, that doesn't make any sense because nobody acts like that in real life.
I don't mind when characters do stupid things because people do stupid things, but I don't like it when they're obviously doing stupid things as
like for the plot.
Yeah, as a convenience for the whoever wrote the movie. I don't like that. That's very, very annoying, and it's it's pretty much in almost every scary movie.
Well, and I get it too, because like to a certain extent, like a lot of plot devices can be ruined by the fact that like people have cell phones now. So it's like, why didn't they just call this guy?
Yeah, the cell phone thing, I think, well, I thought this a while ago and it hasn't happened, but I thought that would mean we'd just see a lot more movies that were set in like the 90s.
Well, no, what they do is it's always like, oh, I don't have my cell phone, or like my cell phone wouldn't work for X, Y, or Z. Like it's out of battery. Right. Well, like you see a lot of those shots added into movies.
Yeah. And the thing now too, where they put a lot of cell phone text on screen now. Which is, I'm not entirely against it, but it does feel like cheating a bit. It's sort of like it's like a voiceover sort of thing where, I mean, they tell you that's bad, but a good movie can always break those rules, I guess, if they want.
Yeah. And it's not movie killing any of those things, but the other thing that people bring up a lot is with the new Marvel movies, they'll do like a smaller one or a TV show. Why didn't they just call Thor? Thor could have beat him. He has electricity as a power.
Yeah.
And it's like, so like, and then like the problem with the Marvel movies and what they've done to cinema is they actually try to like explain them away. Like, this is why Hawkeye couldn't contact the Avengers this week because
Yeah,
of
he was
this.
locked in a dungeon or something.
Yeah. And it's like, you don't like, oh, why didn't they get Captain Marvel? She could have killed Kingpin in 2 seconds.
Yeah,
Spoiler alert for Hawkeye, by the way.
I've never seen. I probably will not end up seeing that, but I know what it is.
Like I said, I'm a movie guy, so I watch all movies that I can get.
I think some people might judge you negatively for that, but I'm like a content consumer. I just watch things, listen to things.
Yeah.
I just like do that. I don't just I mean, in some sense it's like junk food. I mean, it definitely is junk food for your mind, but at the same time, the main thing for me is it's social. Like, I want to talk to people who also saw it, and then we each, we all have our theories and stuff.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing also related to signs is kind of, I feel like you need to go into movies looking for like what they're like, you should be looking for what they're trying to offer. So if the movie is trying to offer you cool action scenes, if it delivers on that, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
Right. Now, it may not be a great movie, right? It may not surpass the genre of whatever genre it is. But like, if you're looking for a scary movie, you want to go to a movie that's scary. If it's also a really great movie, that's good. But it doesn't have to be. It just has to be scary. Right. And so like with Signs, I think a big part of the Signs backlash, the 67% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is still fresh, I guess, but would be, they kind of advertised it as, this is an alien invasion movie. And if you go in there expecting to see Independence Day, which was probably like the most recent alien invasion movie in pop culture.
Yeah, it was like at 96, I think.
Yeah, like I can't think of another. I mean, I guess Star Wars is aliens, but I don't know.
There was a big alien wave in the 90s, but I don't remember anything. Yeah, Independence Day probably would have been the most.
Yeah, but
relevant.
And they almost advertised it as like, this is Mel Gibson in Independence Day 2. They didn't, but like to a certain extent, some people went in thinking they're going to see like a bunch of aliens attack Mel Gibson. Yeah. And then it turns out it's a smaller movie that takes place almost in one house the entire time.
I'm glad you remember some of that, because like the marketing and stuff, because I don't have any recollection of the marketing. In that era, early 2000s,
go ahead.
I saw everything mostly. I mean, we would pretty much only go to the dollar theater, where movies were dollar, but those movies often when they hit the dollar theater, they were like already on VHS and stuff. So we did dollar theater and we rented a lot of movies, like my grocery store, right, had like a video rental section. And I don't remember like the marketing around Signs at all. I just remember I didn't see it in a theater. I'm pretty sure I probably saw it on VHS at home. But yeah, I'm glad you remember that, because my experience with it was just like seeing it long after it came out and not recalling any advertisements.
Yeah, because and I don't remember like specifics, but I do remember that when I went to go see it, I thought there were going to be more aliens. Like, I remember that being a thought I had.